All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at blood flow through the heart, as it pertains to outside of the heart as well. So in the last video you should have watched, you saw really how all this stuff functions if it's zoomed in on the heart, but now this includes the rest of the body. I know I'm not the best drawer, but I did the best I could. So these blobs here are supposed to represent the lungs. These guys are the body cells. Yeah, let's go through it. Okay, so I want to start with the aorta. So we know the aorta is an artery, and we know that it brings blood to the body away from the heart. So I'm going to write the word aorta here, and that's actually on the top and the bottom, because this part's going to bring blood away from the heart to like your stomach and your legs, and this part brings blood away from the heart to your head and your shoulders and all those kinds of things. So since it's bringing blood away from the heart, if you remember from the last video, we consider it an artery. They bring blood away from the heart. The aorta is one of them. You don't see the word pulmonary in there, so you can expect it's bringing blood away from the heart to the body. If it's bringing blood to the body, the goal is to drop off oxygen, so it should be oxygenated. Okay. From there, it's going to go to these little guys called capillaries. But before I tell you about those, let's really define what an artery actually is. So down here is a picture of an artery. Okay, this is supposed to be muscle. Arteries are muscular. They are what give us our pulse. They put a lot of pressure. And they can actually constrict and dilate and direct blood to different organs with different speeds, I guess, depending on what parts of your body need the most nutrients or need to get rid of the most waste or whatever at that time. So their muscle, their pulse, their pressure, and they bring blood away from the heart. Okay. So they're bringing blood away from the heart, and at some point, I mean, this is a cycle, right? So at some point, it's gonna have to get back into veins. So at what point does it change from going away from the heart back toward the heart, right? We have to change them over to veins. So the changing point is called capillaries. So as the aorta splits into smaller and smaller and smaller arteries, this is supposed to be its splitting, it eventually becomes so tiny that we call them capillaries. Capillaries. A capillary is a very, very small blood vessel, and it's so thin that it actually allows the transfer of nutrients and oxygen and carbon dioxide and wastes through it via diffusion. So the aorta is oxygenated the whole way through. It gets to the capillaries as it divides down until it's referred to as a capillary, where that kind of diffuses out oxygen into our cells. At this point is where it transitions into being deoxygenated. Okay, and now it's on its way back. As it's going back toward, and by the way, this happens at the top too. I forgot to color that in over there. So as it's on its way back toward the heart, now we call that thing that it's moving through a vein. So I'm going to come back down here and let's label this. So this is a vein. They're flatter. They have less muscle. They have valves to prevent backflow because they're not really doing a whole lot to pump because they don't have a lot of muscle. So they're relying on those valves to stop blood from falling back down due to gravity. And they're weaker, and they bring blood toward the heart, okay, toward the heart. So far we've talked about the arteries, the aorta, we talked about capillaries. They're in charge of exchange of materials. So there's going to be diffusion, mostly. And here's where we're talking about oxygen. It could also be nutrients when we're relating it to the digestive system, and stuff like that. And then after it's done with the capillaries, we come to the veins, and they are bringing blood toward the heart. The vena cava is what we're going to talk about first. That doesn't have the word pulmonary in it, so it's coming toward the heart from the body. It's also going up and down. It's vertical, so that's another way to know that it's not related to the respiratory system. So this is the vena cava right here. I wanted that to be blue. That's okay. The vena cava, and that's going up toward the heart now in there. And so that's both sides, the top and bottom are the vena cava. Same thing where it depends on where it's bringing blood from. Okay, both sides. So this side is being received now by the atrium. You know this from the last video, so I'm not going to spend time on this. So it's being received by the atrium. It goes through a valve, and from there, it goes into the right ventricle. That goes through another valve, and it's pumped out away from the heart. Notice that this splits sideways this time. This is going to go to the respiratory system. So this is your pulmonary. It's going away from the heart, so it's an artery, your pulmonary artery. So your pulmonary artery, we know the word pulmonary refers to it being related to the respiratory system. So pulmonary artery is bringing blood away from the heart to the respiratory system. It needs to pick up oxygen, that's why it's going there, so it's deoxygenated. From there it goes and it picks up some oxygen. And the way it does this is once again through capillaries. So this would be considered a capillary bed. Same thing over here. These little guys are capillaries. And if we zoom in on them, the capillaries in the lungs surround what's called an alveolus. So I'm going to color this. I'm going to write this in black. This little light bulb looking thing is a singular alveolus. We're going to get to that in the alveolus. We're going to get to it more in the respiratory system. Just know that it's bringing oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. It's the end of, essentially it's the end of your breathing tubes if you think about it that way. So it's going to dissolve oxygen into the blood, and it's going to take carbon dioxide out of the blood. These little guys are your red blood cells, these little circles, and the outer, how do I explain this? This outer pathway that's holding all those red blood cells, that's a capillary. Okay, so the capillaries are in charge of exchange. Oh, sorry. The capillaries are in charge of exchange. So is the capillary. The keyword, write it in capital letters, is exchange. Okay, they exchange oxygen, they exchange nutrients, wastes. I already kind of mentioned this. And they are one cell thick. And the reason is because they have to be very, very, very thin in order to have diffusion. If you see these little dots, that represents a nucleus. Sometimes they put the dots on there to show that they're one cell thick. So exchange of materials, they're one cell thick. And after that, it comes back in through the pulmonary because it's coming in from the respiratory system. No, I can't grab this. There we go. Oh, that's not even what I want anyway. It comes in back through. So did I label this? This was the pulmonary vein. And I'm sorry, the pulmonary artery. And it comes back in through. Now it picked up oxygen, so it's oxygenated. It's going through now the pulmonary vein because it's going back toward the heart. Okay, so these horizontal guys are the pulmonary veins. They're oxygenated. So let's spray that over here to show that they've picked up oxygen. And I'm going to show over here that the artery that was dropping it off to the lungs was deoxygenated. That goes in through the right atrium, through a valve, through to the left, did I say left? Left atrium, through a valve, left ventricle, up and out the aorta, and then the cycle just continues over and over and over again. And same thing here, where those capillaries are the transition point between oxygenated and deoxygenated. So that's it. That's all I got for you.